This is Pastor Jeff Chavis. I'm the pastor of Church Online. We're a unique online community of faith. You can find us at churchonline.com, but we spell it uniquely CHRCH because we say all that's missing is you. churchonline.com. This morning, I want to talk about something that it's been coming up in a lot of conversations I've been having with people, both bosses and people that hire, and also employees. It seems as if people don't stay on the job as long as they used to. I think you know what I'm talking about. It seems like maybe with our grandparents or our parents, they stayed in the same company for decades. In fact, I found, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, there is a man in Brazil whose name is Walter Orthman. He's 102 years old, and as far as I'm aware, he's still alive, but he worked for the same company for 84 years. Think about this for a minute. He started working with the company when he was just 15 years old, walking to work every day. The name of the company is Industrious Renault South America, and he started working in 1938. He retired at the age of 100 in 2002 for a total of 84 years on the job. Now, can you imagine that? According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, people generally in America only stay with the same job about 4.3 years for men, 3.8 years for women. Now, when I started investigating, studying this, I had to ask that question, is that true in church? And, as you might imagine, yes, it is the same thing. People do not stay dedicated to their churches like they once did. There's a new term that is used in church circles today. It's called church churning. It's a term to discuss people leaving this church, going to another church, or you stay at two different churches at one time. Now, when I say that, some of you might be thinking, well, yeah, that's true of me. Or you might think, wow, that's a little crazy, isn't it? According to, again, church statistics, about 10 to 15% of the people leave a given church on any given year. Again, 10 to 15%. 27% say that they attend multiple churches. Again, the term that we're seeing in our world today is church churning. People moving in, moving out. Maybe you've experienced that. I don't know. But it made me think about the early days of the church, the first century church, when things seemed a whole lot different. There was obviously the apostles were still alive, but listen to these words in the book of Acts, and this is in Acts chapter 2. We'll start in verse 42. It says, "They continued to steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, in the breaking of bread and prayers. The fear of the Lord came upon every soul. Many wonders and signs were done through the apostles. Now all who believed were together and had all things in common. They sold their possessions and goods and divided them among anyone who had need. So they continued meeting daily in one accord in the temple, breaking bread from house to house. They ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart, praising God and having the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved." That's what it looked like in the church of the book of Acts in the first century. The word that's used here in verse 42, they continued steadfastly. Some Bibles will say they were dedicated. That's where I got the word from. They were dedicated, number one, to the apostles' teaching, and number two, to fellowship, number three, breaking of bread, and number four, prayer. They were dedicated. Again, I like the way it says it in the King James. They continued steadfastly, never giving up. In the same way, Mr. Orthman continued day after day, week after week, year after year, going to his job, going all the time. He was absolutely dedicated. And then it leads me to think about this group of people. I think that would have been true of them. Now, of course, this is the first century, and maybe in your minds you're thinking, well, there wasn't another church to go to. Well, that's true, but it would have been really easy for them to maybe Start something new. Well, I'm not liking the way this is happening here, and let's start something brand new in our home down the street. It would have been easy and probably would have been received pretty well. But that's not continuing steadfastly with this amazing fellowship that they had. And that's really what I wanted to encourage us today with. Think about the church that you're going to right now. Are you dedicated to it? Maybe your church is a big church. Maybe your church is a house church, people meeting together and breaking bread like the first century. But are you dedicated? Are you continuing steadfastly with the same group of people? I think one of the keys might be characterized by radical hospitality. People genuinely open their homes, and things looked a little different back then than they do today. Maybe there's somebody listening today, and maybe you're considering that. Maybe you're thinking, oh, this church just isn't working out for me. But maybe I would suggest that the problem is not the church. Maybe the problem is within us. And it's time for us to maybe practice some radical hospitality, like the first century church. Maybe breaking bread in our homes with some people from church might be just the thing to help them and us just to become more dedicated to the fellowship